Alright guys, welcome back to Eldest Born, a Three Brothers podcast. Now we are currently on our third installment of our series reacting to the 60th anniversary specials of Doctor Who. This special is the third and final one that we're going to be talking about today, and it is called the Giggle. As some of you might already seen from the trailers, the Doctor is up against an old enemy of his that we haven't seen since the 60s. Specifically, classic Doctor Who, Season 3, Episode 7, The Final Test. Now, The Final Test is actually the last in a 4-part block of classic Doctor Who episodes. The first 3 of them have since been lost, and The Final Test is the last one that they have in the BBC archives. Now, if you haven't already guessed who the villain is, we are going up against the Celestial Toymaker in this episode. Now, I want to play a short clip from The Final Test, the episode where we first encounter the Toymaker, so we can all get acquainted with the character before moving on to the Giggle. Let's take a look.
Look, as long as we defeat you, that's all I care. You can't beat us now.
We shall see.
Well said, my boy, well said.
Well said. He doesn't even know what he is saying. These adolescent expressions of loyalty. Before you make puerile promises, remember the past, your little adventures. Remember my power.
Your power? We won through, didn't we?
Perhaps. But would you dare to play those little games again?
Not until I've laid hands on you.
No, it's no use, Stephen. Leave him.
Are you all right?
I couldn't touch him. He's using his mind to turn your strength against yourself. Now, go back into the TARDIS. I will deal with him.
Doctor, I offer you power. Power to corrupt, to destroy. Think of the exhilaration of that power. Serve me and live.
Never! Never, my friend! You have been defeated.
We will see, old man. The game is not yet over. We shall see.
What have you done? Stop meddling with my ship.
It isn't what I have done, but what you have not done. You must finish the game. You cannot leave here until you have.
Your infantile behavior is beyond a joke. No. Of course, I mustn't. You very nearly caught me then,
Make your last move, Doctor. Make your move.
But if I do, this place vanishes,
And then you have won completely?
And if this place vanishes, then the TARDIS and the rest of us will vanish also.
Correct. That is the price of success. Make your last move, Doctor. Make your last move.
If the Toymaker loses the game, his world will vanish, but he has the power to build a new one.
How?
The Toymaker is immortal. He's lasted for thousands of years. Very occasionally, of course, he loses the game and then he has to pay the price.
That price is the loss of his world?
Yes, but he himself is not destroyed. He goes on forever.
So we can't leave.
There must be a way. Will you leave my ship alone? Do you hear me? Will you leave my ship alone?
Let me have it, Doctor. It would be such an amusing toy.
Let me have the logic game in here.
Of course not. Be reasonable, Doctor. If I allow you to make the last move in there, then you can preset your controls and dematerialize at the same moment that my world vanishes. Then you will escape.
It will make no difference to you. You can build a new world.
Of course. And I look forward to that. I'm bored with this one. But I'm a bad loser, Doctor. I always destroy the destroyer.
I will not come out and make that final move.
Then you must stay there forever.
Doctor, let me go out and make that move for you.
Oh, nonsense, dear boy. You don't want to disappear.
Well, at least you and Dodo would get away.
Yes, well, that's very noble and kind of you, but I absolutely forbid it. You've done quite enough in getting the TARDIS back.
All right. Something's got to be done. We can't just stand here and talk our way out of this.
We can. That's just it. That's just what we can do. Listen to me. I will make that final move.
How sensible of you, Doctor.
Go back to the trilogic game. Are you ready?
Whenever you are, Doctor.
Very well. Preset for dematerialization. Go to move 1023.
Go from move 1023.
Master switch!
Doctor, but how was it done?
My dear boy, it was your very idea. Your very idea. Don't you see, when the Toymaker wanted to move the pieces, he had to command them in a certain tone of voice to make them move at all.
But you had to do it twice.
Yes, but in the first place, you see, I couldn't because I used my own voice.
I don't see.
I do. The Toymaker wasn't playing.
Exactly, dear boy, exactly. Therefore, I had to imitate the Toymaker's voice to make them obey me, and they did.
We'll never see him again, will we, Doctor?
Oh, my dear, don't talk too soon. The mind is indestructible. So is the Toymaker.
What, you mean he can never be destroyed?
But you defeated him.
Yes, just at this moment, but there will be other meetings in another time.
Then your battle with him will never end.
Yes, you're quite right, my dear. But anyway, let us cheer up. After all, we did win the games.
Alright, so there we have it. Now, I kind of find it refreshing to see some of the old black and white footage of Doctor Who from the 60s with William Hartnell as the first Doctor. I know it's a very slow-paced clip, and it's kind of confusing as to what's going on exactly because of the way in which they filmed these Doctor Who episodes back in the day. It was a lot less action-packed as episodes are in today's era. But basically, the Toymaker and the Doctor were locked in a game, and the only way to win and escape was to imitate the Toymaker's voice and command the board to make its next move at the same time as the TARDIS dematerialized from the Toymaker's domain. So that's pretty interesting, and we get a good sense of who the Toymaker is, as William Hartnell does describe him in great detail as an immortal who has lived for thousands of years, who cannot be destroyed. He can create worlds with his mind, as well as control anything that happens to be within his world. So let's jump right into that and see what Russell T Davies has for us in this last installment of the Doctor Who 60th anniversary. Now, this episode definitely has the fan base split in terms of what their sentiments are for where the series is about to go. But in order for you to understand that, we have to run through a little bit of a summary of the events of the episode so that we can finally get to the climactic event that produces the most questions for Doctor Who fans in terms of the future of the franchise. So let's get started. Now, the episode starts out in Soho, London, 1925, and we see a gentleman walk into an emporium of different games and toys. Now, he's immediately met by Neil Patrick Harris's character, the Celestial Toymaker. This character, of course, does not know who he's interacting with. Now, we quickly find out that he's there to buy a toy for his employer, John Logie Baird, who is the inventor of the live stream television. Now, he takes the toy back to his employer's home where they are testing out the new live stream television, and they put the doll in front of the camera under an immensely hot lamp, and this proceeds to burn the doll as they start to film the first ever broadcast of live television. And in the background you can hear an ominous giggle. Now apparently the doll's name is Stooky Bill, and although that is a small detail, it is mentioned in the episode, and I'm sure it must have some basis in history, as Stooky Bill is the first image to ever be recorded on live television. Now after the intro sequence, we immediately cut forward to present day, where the Doctor and Donna are now stuck in a whirlwind of chaos, as everyone in London seems to believe that they are right about everything. Every individual is completely convinced that they are correct no matter what the topic of discussion is, and this is leading to pandemonium and violence in the streets. Quickly, we see unit soldiers show up to take the Doctor and Donna away to unit headquarters, and right before that happens, the Doctor encounters a mysterious man dancing in the streets in a tuxedo and top hat. Now we as the audience know that this is the Toymaker. So that tells us right away that he is able to transcend time almost instantaneously, and he is the cause of this pandemonium. He waves the Doctor and Donna off as they get airlifted by Unit and taken to an Avengers style tower with Unit's name on the side of it. Now as the Doctor is greeted by Kate Lethbridge Stewart and the scientific advisor in the wheelchair, he mentions the fact that Kate's father, the Brigadier, spent years trying to keep Unit a secret from the world, and now she is making its existence public. As the Doctor is ushered into Unit HQ from the helipad, he is introduced to two pieces of technology that we've never seen in the show before. One of them is called a Z-Deck, which is an armband that is suppressing the aggravating brain waves, which is causing people to go mad with prideful indignation. The second is the creator of this technology, the Sphinx, which is an animatronic humanoid robot that is currently operating Unit HQ. We know little to nothing about this character, and it's the first time we're seeing it in the series thus far. That being said, they don't tell us much, and I'm sure it's going to be touched upon in future episodes. Now, as a demonstration to the Doctor of how the Z-Decks work and what they're going up against, Kate Stewart decides to take hers off and show what the influence of this malevolent force that's been controlling people can do to a person's psyche. That being said, she begins to get very aggressive and starts verbally insulting everyone in the room, and she immediately needs to be restrained and have her Z-Decks reactivated in order for her to come back to her senses. Now, in the same scene, we see Donna Noble analyzing the brainwaves of Kate as displayed on the screen, and she recognizes them as music notes. And a returning companion of the Doctor, Mel, who works for a unit now, she is able to see that the music notes form an arpeggio and go something like this. Ha 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 ha. Now they quickly realize that this is not a song, but instead it is a laugh. The same laugh that played when Stogie Bill was broadcast on TV for the first time. And the Doctor immediately comes to the conclusion that Stogie Bill's image is being broadcast across the entire world and is embedded in every television screen, every mobile device, and every computer screen that's ever been created. And it's been infecting the minds of people until today, when it was finally activated, causing them to go mad. And the Doctor dubs this phenomena the Giggle. Now the Doctor takes a quick moment to reunite with Mel, who I haven't mentioned before as a 6th Doctor companion. Now, after discovering the origins of the Giggle, the Doctor and Donna travel back to 1925, where they hope to find answers to how this broadcast found itself embedded in every screen in the world. That's when they stumble upon the Toymaker's Emporium, and the Doctor is quickly able to decipher who this mysterious character is, as he puts on a juggling demonstration in front of them and speaks to them about the history of certain games. The Doctor tells Donna to return to the TARDIS, but of course she doesn't listen, and as the Toymaker runs off into a back room, the Doctor proceeds to pursue him with Donna in tow. They eventually get locked in this long corridor, which seems to have no end in sight, and many different doors all around. Donna reasonably comes to the conclusion that this is bigger on the inside technology, similar to the TARDIS, but the Doctor is quick to correct her, saying that the TARDIS is a mere toy to the Celestial Toymaker, and that he is able to create worlds with his mind. That being said, they are now stuck in the Toymaker's domain. And as they traverse this mysterious corridor full of doors, going from one room to the other, they eventually get separated. And this is where each one of them experiences a slightly different, macabre horror. Now the Doctor runs into a life-size marionette of the gentleman who bought Stogie Bill. He talks about how he is trapped in the Toymaker's world and can never escape. And then we see a colossal version of the Toymaker pulling the strings above the Doctor's head. And the scene immediately cuts to Donna, who is stuck in a windowed room that resembles an attic. And she is then introduced to a female marionette of a much smaller size, who was the so-called wife of Stogie Bill. as she's attacked by this marionette and its even smaller marionette babies. She proceeds to fight them off, destroying the female marionette and threatening to do the same to the 3 babies. After this, the Doctor and Donna are reunited and eventually make their way into a giant room resembling an old-timey puppet show. This is where the Celestial Toymaker puts on a show explaining that everyone that has traveled with the Doctor after Donna left him in his 10th incarnation has died a tragic death. He explains that Amy Pond died at the hands of the Weeping Angels, Clara died at the hands of the Raven, and Bill Potts died at the hands of the Cybermen. Now, the Doctor's response to each of these accusations is that they all survived in some way, shape, or form. Amy lived to an old age in the past. Clara was able to stretch out the last second of her life into an eternity, and Bill was able to separate her consciousness from her dead body and travel the stars. In response to all these sort of excuses, the Celestial Toymaker says, "Oh, so then it's alright," as if to imply that even though all his companions have died, these sort of exceptions to the rule make it okay that he's been responsible for so many people's deaths. Now, this is a very interesting concept, and I thought they were going to flesh this out a lot more, but we'll see what happens as we keep going. Now, the Doctor proceeds to challenge the Toymaker to a game, and apparently the Toymaker is unable to refuse a challenge because games are the law in which he lives by. So they proceed to do high card cut, which is where you cut the deck and whoever draws the highest card wins. Now, as the game is about to start, the Toymaker talks about how he entered this world and challenged everyone he possibly could. He won to the Master, trapping the Master inside of his gold tooth. He faced supernovas and other celestial beings, one of which he refers to as God. And then he mentions the one who waits. He says that's the only individual that he couldn't bring himself to challenge and that he fled from. And then he says that's a story for another day, which is a very ominous statement, and it leaves us wanting so much more from this backstory of the Celestial Toymaker. Now, I don't know what's going to happen or when we're going to see the revelation of that, but I'm looking forward to it for sure. Now, the Doctor ends up drawing an 8 of clubs, and then the Toymaker proceeds to draw a King of hearts. Therefore, the Doctor loses the game. But in a moment of quick thinking, the Doctor says that because he won against the Toymaker during their original meeting, and the Toymaker won just now, that they must now do a tiebreaker game and play best of 3, which the Toymaker responds by saying they should do this in 2023, and he flees the premises, leaving the Doctor and Donna to run for their lives as his world collapses. And as they exit the building they're in, they see the entire structure fold in on itself, forming what seems like a jack-in-the-box. Now, as the Doctor and Donna travel back to 2023, back to unit headquarters, they start to explain to all the unit members what they're up against. And that's when they're interrupted by the Toymaker, who, in a very campy rendition of the Spice Girls' Spice Up Your Life, proceeds to toy with everyone in the room, dancing and spinning them around, throwing Kate against a wall and Mel onto the ground. And as all the unit soldiers are ordered to fire upon him, their bullets turn to rose petals as he continues to mock them with his power. Now, I personally thought this scene was a little ridiculous when I first watched it, but upon a second watch through of the episode, I didn't mind it as much. So, that being said, I understand some people may think it's not really keeping within the tone of Doctor Who, but I kind of liked it after a while. It just kind of made the character of the Toymaker seem a little more unstable and mentally insane. The Toymaker then proceeds to take control of the giant laser that UNIT has stationed on their helipad. Now, this laser was going to be used to shoot a specific satellite out of orbit, and they were hoping that by stopping this satellite, they'd be able to prevent the Giggle from infecting people's minds. Now, brace yourself, because this is where the episode gets kind of intense, and we see something that we've never seen in Doctor Who history before. So as the Toymaker continues to taunt the group with the use of the giant laser, eventually he states that because his first game was played with the first Doctor and his second game was played with the 14th Doctor, logic dictates that his third and final tiebreaker game should be played with another Doctor. So he shoots the 14th Doctor in the chest with the laser. Now, as Donna and Mel go to be with the 14th Doctor as he begins to regenerate, something strange happens. The regeneration process doesn't quite go as planned, and the Doctor asks them both to pull hard in separate directions because something feels weird with this regeneration. And as the two companions pull, we see Ncuti Gatwar's 15th Doctor emerge from the side of David Tennant's 14th Doctor in what they proceed to describe as a bi-generation, the first in the show's history. Now, this was a surprise to everybody in the audience and leaves so many questions to what the heck is going on with these two doctors and can they coexist in the show. Now, as the two doctors proceed to push one another away in order to separate themselves, we see that each one of them maintains specific articles of clothing that the other did not. The 14th Doctor keeps his pants, his vest, and his undershirt, and the 15th Doctor is wearing only a button-down, socks, his underwear, and a tie, which I personally thought was a little ridiculous. I really wanted the 15th Doctor to put some pants on during the next scene, but after watching it a second time, I didn't notice it as much. But my initial reaction still stands that I really wish this scene would have had Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor wearing some pants, because it was really hard to take this regeneration and the ensuing action sequence seriously when you have the Doctor running around in his underwear. Now, naturally, everyone in attendance is confused by what had just happened, and the 15th Doctor says, although it was previously a myth, bi-generation is what they just witnessed, which has never happened before. The two Doctors then proceed to challenge the Toymaker to a third and final game, the game being catch. Now, I personally thought that challenging the Toymaker to a game of catch was a very weak decision on Russell's part. I think he could have written a much better game as the final showdown between these characters. But they proceed to go into a very fast-paced, aggressive game of catch, and to no one's surprise, the two Doctors are able to defeat the Celestial Toymaker by throwing the ball in a way in which he is unable to catch it and it falls off the side of the building. Now, as their reward, the 14th Doctor says that they want the Toymaker to be banished from the universe forever. And he proceeds to fold up into a square, just like the building had done earlier. And as they place him in his box, he screams out that his legions are coming, which is another ominous foreshadow, which is very reminiscent of what the Meep said at the end of the Star Beast. As they proceed to exit the helipad, we see a mysterious hand with red nail polish pick up the gold tooth that the Toymaker had previously said contained the Master. So obviously this is a foreshadow for who we will see play the Master during the 15th Doctor's era. Now, as the episode starts to come to an end, there's a lot of emotional moments between the 15th Doctor and the 14th Doctor, as David Tennant's 14th Doctor inquires about how the two Doctors are supposed to coexist now that one of them has survived what should have been a regeneration. Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor then proceeds to explain to him that the reason the Doctor probably revisited an old face is that he was wearing himself thin with all the emotional baggage of the events that had occurred between Doctors 1 and Doctors 14, and that the best thing the 14th Doctor could do was to rest by staying home on Earth with Donna Noble and her family. Now, as the two Doctors say goodbye to one another, the 14th Doctor brings up the fact that he could never live without his TARDIS, and the 15th Doctor, proceeding to take out a cartoonishly large mallet, says that he's about to demonstrate what his prize for winning the game against the Toymaker is. He then slams the mallet against the TARDIS as the TARDIS splits into two, replicating itself. And this is explained away by the fact that they each got a reward for winning the game, and because the 15th Doctor had not chosen his reward yet, they were still in a state of play instituted by the Toymaker's rules. Now, that being said, the 15th Doctor finally says his goodbyes, jumps in his new TARDIS, which apparently includes a jukebox, and he time travels away to start his adventure as a brand new Doctor. And of course, we're going to see him again during this year's Christmas special. The episode finally ends with 14, Donna, her family, and Mel all sitting around a table in the backyard of Donna's home as they reminisce about adventures in time and space and joke about what the future looks like as the 14th Doctor makes himself at home amongst the family of his best friend and companion, Donna. Alright guys, so I sped through that summary because I have a lot of opinions about this episode. I'm a little torn with the episode, mainly because I thought the pacing was off and that the Celestial Toymaker as a character wasn't used to his full potential. In a weird way, I kind of feel like even though most regeneration episodes are a great place to jump into Doctor Who as a franchise, starting fresh with a brand new Doctor, I kind of felt like this episode served as a jumping off point for old fans who loved the classic Who and New Who series up until about Peter Capaldi's era. And if you wanted to stop watching Doctor Who as of right now, you could easily just put the show to rest with 14's retirement, seeing as I kind of think that the 14th Doctor's existence diminishes diminishes the 15th Doctor just a little bit. And knowing that the 14th Doctor is still alive somewhere on Earth, the fanbase might be hoping to see more of David Tennant and neglect Ncuti Gatwar's 15th Doctor as we go into this new season. Of course, I personally won't be doing that. I love the show so much, and I do have hope for its future, because honestly, in my opinion, no future Doctor that's coming could be much worse than Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor. But we'll see. As long as they keep the woke agenda out of the show, I will be a happy viewer. So I'm very skeptical, but also very optimistic about how the next season of Doctor Who is going to go. Now, throughout the episode, I noticed a lot of political and social themes. The main one being the depravity of the human race as people who are prone to hatred and who all think they're right all the time. After all, that was the Toymaker's explanation for why he installed the Giggle in every screen in the world. And the Doctor quickly concludes that if everybody thinks they're right and thinks they've won, then everyone has actually lost. There was also a moment in the episode where the Doctor went on a crazy rant about how depraved humans are and how all they do is hate one another, and that the Giggle is only a manifestation of that inner hatred, which is not false in any way, but it definitely put the Doctor on a very high horse during this scene that I thought was slightly unnecessary and lacked a lot of compassion. That being said, the episode was not too woke. I think the campiness of the Celestial Toymaker with his bizarre accent that he uses throughout the episode and his dance routine to the Spice Girls was a little flamboyant, but I can see that being an interesting take on the character, as we didn't get to see a lot of his personality in the old Classic Who episode. Something I thought was kind of interesting, and I also didn't mind that much, is that the new TARDIS is wheelchair accessible now, which obviously is pandering to disabled people, but to be honest with you, I kind of thought it was cool, and it didn't bother me at all. Now, I personally thought that this episode as a whole had a lot of great potential, especially in the first half. I thought that the Celestial Toymaker could have been a really great villain, and that the first half of the episode was handled pretty well. It had a lot of suspense, and there was a lot of build up to something really great. Although I would have preferred, instead of this strange occurrence called bi-generation that was pulled out of thin air, and that is an unprecedented piece of canon for the world of Doctor Who now, I really would have wished any of the past new Who Doctors would have come back, specifically Peter Capaldi and Christopher Eccleston reprising their roles as the 12th and 9th Doctors respectively. I also was curious to see if they would bring back Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor, as it's been announced that he is getting his own spin-off series where he's reprising his role as the 8th Doctor. We previously only saw him briefly in the 1996 Doctor Who movie and in the mini episode The Night of the Doctor, which is a prequel to The Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special. That being said, I am excited for his spin-off, and I can't wait to see more of the 8th Doctor as portrayed by Paul McGann. I personally think that David Tennant's 14th Doctor, as he settles in on Earth, could possibly regenerate into Tom Baker's Curator that we saw in the 50th anniversary special. And that would actually make a lot of sense going forward. He also could regenerate into the Valyard, which, if you know anything about Classic Who and the Trial of the Doctor, the Valyard is an evil future incarnation of the Doctor that finds himself going up against the 6th Doctor as he stands trial in front of the Time Lords.
They made a deal with the Valyard, or as I've always known him, the Doctor, to adjust the evidence. In return for which, he was promised the remainder of the Doctor's regenerations.
This is clear.
Just a minute! Did you call him the Doctor?
There is some evil in all of us, Doctor, even you. The Valyard is an amalgamation of the darker sides of your nature, somewhere between your 12th and final incarnation. And I may say you do not improve with age.
Another thing that I am hoping that happens going forward is that I hope we run into the fugitive Doctor once again. I feel like that character did not have enough of her origin stories explained, and although I forget her name, the actress was very good at portraying a black female incarnation of the Doctor, which apparently took place before William Hartnell's first Doctor. So obviously the numbering system is all messed up at this point. Now, with all this being said, the fan base is definitely very split, and this begs a few important questions. Do you think the Giggle lived up to its hype? Is Doctor Who as a franchise past its prime? Does the 14th Doctor's survival leave room for a spin-off starring David Tennant? Or did they just leave that avenue available in case Ncuti Gatwar's 15th Doctor turns out to be a flop? Also, what did you guys think of this bi-generation? And what implications do you think it has for the future of the franchise? Now, just to conclude this episode of the podcast, I want to announce that I recently completed another dramatized adaptation of Liberation of the Daleks. Now, this was a comic strip released in Doctor Who magazine just this year, and it serves as the prequel to the 60th anniversary specials. It obviously stars David Tennant's 14th Doctor as he goes on a unique adventure taking place immediately after the 13th Doctor's regeneration. And if you don't want to get a hold of the physical comic book and read it for yourselves, you can go on my YouTube channel and watch the dramatized adaptation that I've curated for you guys, with voiceovers taken from Phoenix 24's YouTube channel. So feel free to go check it out if you're interested. Alright guys, well, obviously this episode left a lot of food for thought. I didn't want to be too biased with my critiques of it, because even though I didn't really like the Giggle during my first watch through, it did grow on me during my second. And that seemed to be the case with all 3 episodes within the 60th anniversary special. Now, I'm not saying that any of the episodes were worthy of being part of a 60th anniversary, but each individual episode as it stood did have its pros and cons, and I'm learning to appreciate each one upon rewatching them. Now, if you've been enjoying this Doctor Who content, I am going to be filming one more episode this year, reacting to the Doctor Who Christmas special entitled The Church on Ruby Road. I can't wait to see what that's about. The trailer has been released already, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody just yet. And who knows, maybe as we head into 2024, we'll get a little more Doctor Who content going on this podcast. But I also want to start talking about some other franchises that I know and love, as well as continue some of our video game series that we've already started. So stay tuned for that. Now, once again, guys, this has been Eldest Born, a Three Brothers podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, follow us on Instagram at 3brothers_podcast and 3brothers_eldestborn. Until next time.